that everybody needs good neighbours, but more often than not, neighbours are often depicted in a negative light, whether it's the classic nosy neighbour.
Now calm down, it's okay. I'm sorry.
Or even worse, the noisy neighbour.
Well, hey man, if you guys ever need anything or we get too noisy, just talk to me or talk to Pete. We'll take care of it.
Same with us. I mean, we get pretty loud over there.
Yeah, we're
Game of Thrones, we get loud. When Khaleesi comes on, I'm like, oh! Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm kind of both, actually, nosy and noisy. New research released this week found we're growing closer to our neighbours than ever before, which is amazing, really. In fact, 38% of us trust our neighbours more than we did 10 years ago. Who would have thought? We're joined now by McCrindle Head of Communications, Ashley Fell, and Chief Marketing Officer of Nabo, Jeff Main. Great to see you both. Actually, we'll start with you. This sort of flies in the face of what we would have expected, particularly with the digital disconnection that we hear so much about. Why so?
Yeah, it was a fascinating piece of research. I was quite surprised about how much we trust our neighbours. 3 in 4 of us trust our neighbours, and even with specific tasks. 82% of us trust our neighbours with collecting our mail. 69% of us trust our neighbours to look after a courier package when it arrives. But what I was really surprised about was almost half of us, 49%, trust their neighbours with looking after their pets. And we know our pets are quite beloved in Australia. And 46% would trust their neighbours with a home key when they go away, which is huge. So, in this age of digital connections, we are trusting our neighbours.
In year 4, I looked after Cameron Clifton's hermit crabs. He went away, he came back, bought me a present to thank him for looking after them, came back over the road 5 minutes later and said, "They're all dead, Basil."
Did he take the present back?
He didn't. I kept it. I'm sorry, Cameron. I never apologised.
Cameron Clifford,
I still feel bad.
I'm here today. I'm pleased that we could out it in this forum.
Yes.
That flies in the face of what we're talking about today, doesn't it? About trusting your neighbours, perhaps not just if you're Clifford.
Sorry.
Indeed. No, just Jeff, just tell us about Nabo and about what that means to people.
Yeah, so Nabo is basically about trying to develop really stronger, safer and healthier communities. It's very simple. It's about connecting you with your neighbours. I mean, you live with them, they're right next door, but you don't really sometimes get to connect with them because we're too busy with work, life, family, everything else becomes really difficult.
So how does it connect people?
So it's very simple. You sign up online. It's a private social network. So what you can do is you sign up, you verify your address to make sure you are actually a neighbour of this person, and then you see local news, events, people are posting about what's going on in the community, crime and safety, really important in terms of stuff that you would not see if you were looking at anywhere else. So it's basically a really great platform, and with 350,000 Australians already online, it's really helping neighbours feel connected.
But Jeff, of course, we would always encourage face-to-face communication as well. The odd knock on the door, the odd say hello, introduce yourself to new neighbours, or vice versa if you move into an area.
Absolutely. The key thing for us is not actually having people stay on the platform. We actually want them to meet up online, maybe have a bit of a chat, and then go into real life.
Face-to-face.
You know, lots of walking groups, lots of coffee catch-ups, lunches. You know, it's a great way to sort of, I guess, make that initial connection online, learn a little bit more about someone, and then actually go and meet them in person or as a wider group.
Yeah.
Now, the very best neighbours in terms of generation, apparently the baby boomers. Why do they make such good neighbours?
Yeah, it was a fascinating insight. Baby boomers are 20% more likely than millennials to trust their neighbours. And I think that's for a few reasons. Baby boomers are more likely to own their own home, and when you own your own home, you're likely to stay in one place longer. Right. Millennials are more likely to rent, so moving on average every 1.8 years when you rent. And it takes time to establish and build trust with neighbours, so if you're moving more frequently. And even millennials more likely to perhaps be living in apartments, so vertical communities, rather than the chat over the fence, you know, have friends over the fence, which this detached home nation, Australia, is so well known for. So it makes sense to me that baby boomers are perhaps better neighbours than millennials.
OK, so we've got to take a leaf out of the baby boomers book. And
good news though that we're better connected, because nobody would have thought we are better connected with our neighbours than 10 years ago, but in fact we are, which shows we're not that bad here, are we?
Thank you both very much.
Good on you.
That's terrific.
Good chat.
Did you stay friends?
Cameron moved
with
away.
Cameron
he
Clifford?
moved to Albany, and I haven't seen him since. But Cameron, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What can I say? Oh, I thought I was feeding them right, Mon. Obviously I wasn't. Too much, I think. I overfed
feeding
them.
Right, but you killed them.
Overfed them.
Coming up on Weekend Sunrise, a piece of TV history up for grabs. Find out which celebrities are trying